Hey there, everybody. This is George from the Dinosaur George Company, answering all of your questions from around the world. And this first one comes from Christian from Lund, Sweden. Christian says, "Hi, George. I hope you're doing well." I am. He says, "I have two questions. My first question is, in Jurassic Fight Club, there was a episode where a group of raptors attacked Tyrannosaurus. And Christian says, basically, half of the raptors were killed. Do I really think that would be realistic?" Well, here's my answer to that, Christian. In what you saw in Jurassic Fight Club, we simply had, I think it was 8 raptors attacking this Tyrannosaurus. That was based off of fossil evidence discovered in Wyoming. Clearly, Deinonychus raptors would have attacked Tyrannosaurus. We see that in the fossil record. But in my opinion, I think there would have been many more Deinonychus in that pack before they ever would have attacked. One of the difficulties with television is we're faced with budgets. And the more raptors I would have had in the show, the more it would have cost to animate those raptors. I would have preferred we see maybe 12, 15, maybe 20 raptors in the group, but we just didn't have the resources to be able to animate that many. So what you saw in the show had very few raptors attacking a big Tyrannosaurus. No, I don't think only 8 raptors would have taken on something that big. I think they would have been much more cautious and would have preferred to have had much more in the group. He also asks about, he said, since the appearance of mankind, a lot of animals have gone extinct because of us. If this continues, do you think the appearance of man could be seen as the 6th mass extinction on Earth? Well, Christian, I get a lot of questions, people asking me about man's impact on global warming and environment. And certainly man has had negative impacts. But man has also had very positive impacts in a number of different situations. There are animals alive today that, in my opinion, never would have survived had man not be involved. And that's animals like sheep and cows and domestic pigs and horses, cats, dogs. Those animals have benefited from man's intervention. Now, you hear a lot about how man impacts things, but you never hear man getting credit for the positive things we do. I would say that 30, 40, 50 years ago, man had absolutely no appreciation for what we were doing to the environment. But that's different today. Today, I think we're much more aware. And so I don't believe man will be the cause of any great global extinction. I think man might actually intervene and save animals that otherwise may have gone extinct simply through selective choice. Animals like cheetahs may not have survived had it not been for man. So I'm not one to believe that man is going to cause mass extinction. I'm one that believes that mankind has started to recognize how we impact the environment, and we're starting to turn that around. Okay, Kim from Seoul, Korea. Kim, nice to hear from you. Kim says, how did a Margosaurus use its spines? Well, for those of you that don't know, here's a model of a Margosaurus. I think you can see this okay. A Margosaurus was a medium to small size sauropod that had these gigantic spines that ran down its neck. And the question is, how would they use them? Here's my opinion. Because they point upright, they don't do anything to benefit the animal from the side. He can't really do anything with them. Certainly, if something were to attack from the top, that would help. But here's what I believe this dinosaur would do. If it was under attack, I believe it would turn and face its predator with these spines pointing up, and I believe it would lean its neck forward, therefore bringing the spines forward, and thrust its head at its attacker. Now, there's absolutely no way that I could know that for certain, but there is, when you look at it, you can use what I consider to be basic common sense to look at the way it's made and to figure out a way that I think it used it. And that's the way I think it used those spines. All right. Johnathan from Tampa, Florida writes and says, were there any dinosaurs that were in Florida? And he says, Allosaurus is my favorite dinosaur too, so I hope that it was living in Florida. You know, Johnathan, one of the difficult things about Florida is that the layer of dirt that holds the bones from the dinosaurs that live there is buried so deep under other layers that we just don't get an opportunity to really see it. But I have no doubt that dinosaurs live there. My best guess is that during the Jurassic period, I do think dinosaurs like Allosaurus and Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus and Camarasaurus probably, if they didn't live in Florida, probably migrated in and out of Florida. Now, at the end of the Cretaceous, probably T-Rex wasn't there because by that point, the U.S. is split in half by an inland sea. And T-Rex was kind of relegated to the western part of the U.S. But I do think dinosaurs like Acrocanthosaurus, perhaps Saurophaganax,
Well, Saurophaganax was Jurassic. Acrocanthosaurus, probably Deinonychus, Tenontosaurus. I believe those guys probably lived in Florida. And I'm glad you like Allosaurus because he's my favorite too. Okay, Brendan from Morris, New York asks, he says, does Albertosaurus, Daspletosaurus, and Tarbosaurus have bone-crushing teeth? You know, Brendan, Tarbosaurus probably was the one out of your list that would have. The other two, Albertosaurus and Daspletosaurus, they're not really, their jaws are not designed for cracking through big, heavy bones. And their teeth are not made for that either. Their teeth are sort of sharp. And because they're sort of sharp and pointy, that makes them a little less stable than a big rounded tooth like, say, Tyrannosaurus Rex would have. So rather than cracking bones, they're probably using their teeth to scrape the meat off of the bone, but I don't believe they cracked bones like Tyrannosaurus. Okay, finally, Henrique from Lisbon, Portugal. Henrique, I'm glad to hear from you. He says, Dear George, this is the first time I write to you, so I have to be honest. When I saw you on Jurassic Fight Club, I honestly got a negative impression of you. But a friend of mine showed me one of your videos, and after I watched a bunch of them in a row, I completely changed my mind. You are a great person and very knowledgeable. Well, you know, Henrique, I appreciate that very much. I'm not offended at all by people who have watched me on television or have heard me speak that don't find me to be an interesting speaker. I appreciate that. There's a lot of people that I see that I don't say I don't like, because that's not the right term, but their methods, I don't agree with what they say, and I may not find them of interest. So I completely respect that. I am glad that you've seen me in a different venue and see me from a different point of view. And Henrique, I'm honored that you that you enjoyed what you saw. So I'm glad to hear that. He said, okay, now for my question. He said, he's heard me talk about my opinion of Dr. Jack Horner when Dr. Horner said that Pachycephalosaurus, Stygimoloch, and who else? Dracopelta or Dracorex were all the same animal. So he wants to know my opinion of whether I think Torosaurus is nothing more than a fully grown Triceratops. Well, Henrique, here's my opinion of that. Once again, I like the work that Dr. Horner does, and I agree with a lot of what he says, but I disagree with him on this. I see enough difference between so many of these ceratopsians that I do believe that they are distinctively different species. Now, in some cases, we go overboard. We find a Triceratops that has a different kind of, different shape of horn, and we immediately want to give it its own classification. When in fact, in my opinion, that just represents, it's like this. Look at a herd of cows. No two cows look the same, yet they can all belong to the same family. We wouldn't go in and give each individual cow its own species name simply because its horn is bent a different direction in one case than another. But when it comes to Torosaurus, I clearly believe, in my opinion, this is a distinctively different dinosaur from Triceratops in that it deserves its own genus and species. All right, everybody, that's it for this time. Thank you all for writing. I appreciate it very much. If you've got a question, go to dinosaurgeorge.com, click on the Ask Dinosaur George page, and send me your question. For all you young people out there, make sure to continue to practice your reading, because that's very important. And for everybody, continue to use good manners. Happy holidays to you all. It is Christmas Eve today, so happy holidays. Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate it. And to everybody out there, take care, and I will see you all again soon.